Official condolences of the U.S. For the death of Iran's president and foreign minister over the weekend. The U.S. also participated in a moment of silence for President Raisi at the UN Security Council, and it sparked some controversy on Twitter. Does the State Department view that as appropriate, taking part in that kind of observance?
Let me say a few things. One, we have been quite clear that Ebrahim Raisi was a brutal participant in the repression of the Iranian people for nearly 4 decades. He was involved in numerous horrific human rights abuses, including playing a key role in the extrajudicial killing of thousands of political prisoners in 1988. Some of the worst human rights abuses occurred during his tenure as president, especially the human rights abuses against the women and girls of Iran. That said, we regret any loss of life. We don't want to see anyone die in a helicopter crash. But that doesn't change the reality of his record, both as a judge and as the president of Iran, the fact that he has blood on his hands. So I think most importantly, our fundamental approach to Iran has not changed and will not change. We will continue to support the people of Iran to defend their human rights, their aspirations to an open, free society and democratic participation, and we will continue to confront the Iranian regime's support for terrorism, its proliferation of dangerous weapons, and its advancement of its nuclear program in ways that have no credible civilian purpose.
And just as a quick follow, in the aftermath of that crash, did the U.S. help in recovery efforts in any way, or was it asked to assist?
We were asked for assistance by the Iranian government. We did make clear to them that we would offer assistance, as we would do in response to any request by a foreign government in this sort of situation, and ultimately we were not able to provide that assistance. We were asked.
Where?
I'm not going to get into the details, but we were asked by the Iranian government for assistance. We said that we would be willing to assist. It's something that we would do with respect to any government in this situation. Ultimately, largely for logistical reasons, we weren't able to provide that assistance.
All right, and then can I just ask you about the state? What exactly is official condolences?
It's a condolences on behalf of the United States government.
Well, then why doesn't it say that? This is like, official condolences means absolutely nothing, and I'm not even sure why you're offering condolences if this guy was as bad as you say he was.
Look,
why? I mean,
because we regret any loss of life. We don't want to see people die in helicopter crashes. It doesn't change our view of him, our view of the regime.
There is not one person that you can think of that the United States didn't want to see in an air accident.
There were people on board that aircraft who have families. We thought that's an appropriate step to take. It's a step that the United States government has taken when any number of foreign leaders with whom we had vehement disagreements have died. But we also made clear in that statement that we continue to support the Iranian people in their fundamental struggle for freedom.
Really? Well, I would just point out to you that when one of the former presidents of Cuba died, this would be Fidel Castro, one of your predecessors did not offer any condolences. And basically said good riddance.
So I will.
And if you really think that Raisi was as bad as what you have laid out at the beginning, I'm just a little bit curious as to why you would put a statement out, no matter how short it is, but with the line official condolences in it. I don't get it.
As long as we're addressing the historical record, the United States offered condolences when Hugo Chavez died, when Joseph Stalin died, people with whom we had great disagreements.
Yes. So Stalin is also an ally of the United States all through, and we talked about this earlier, all through World War II.
He did not die during World War II. He died afterwards when our disagreements with him were quite clear and quite plain and quite well articulated by the United States government. It is a step that the United States takes, recognizing that people have families, and in no way at all undermining our fundamental view of the Iranian regime and its crimes against its own people and our support for the Iranian people.
Go
ahead. Yeah, Geet, go ahead.
Thank you. I think Matt's, he did make it clear that his point is on the word official. You mentioned a few condolences that you sent to other countries, but you did not use this word official. That aside, I'm sure you've probably seen that the people inside of Iran some of them are celebrating this incident. I was wondering what you make of that.
So I can certainly understand why people inside Iran would feel that way when you look at the brutal repression that happened under President Raisi's tenure. As I said in my comment a moment ago, especially when you look at his abuse of women and girls, I can see why people in Iran would feel that way in response to his death. But I obviously can't speak for them.
Well, with the condolences and then support for Iranian people, aren't you sending contradictory messages?
Absolutely not. If you listen to the statement I just made a moment ago, I think we've been quite clear about how we viewed his tenure. And you don't just have to look at what I said today. I don't think there's any country in the world that has been more clear-eyed about the Iranian regime and more clear-eyed about this president's repression of the Iranian people than the United States of America. We have made that quite clear. So it would be close 1 and 2, I think. We have been quite clear, and that has not just been with the words that you have heard from the senior-most leaders in our government, but has been the actions that we have taken, including imposing more than 500 sanctions on the Iranian government and Iranian entities for their destabilizing actions in the region and for the repression of their own people. Yeah.
What's the U.S. government's official message to those Iranians who have been killed, murdered, attacked, wounded by this guy?
The official message is that we stand with them as we have stood by them, and our policy of holding the Iranian regime responsible for those abuses has not changed and will not change, period.
And more broadly, can you tell us anything about the origin of the crash, its outcome, and also potential implications for the wider region, please?
So I have seen the statements made on Iranian state television that it was the result of a technical failure. I don't have any independent assessment to offer, and I wouldn't want. Hold on, and I wouldn't want to offer any assessments about what the impact might be. Anything else on Iran? Iran? No.
Yeah.
Iran.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I know you were quite clear, but it still is very difficult for me to understand or even report on the statement that you just put out, the official condolences. Everything you're talking about is about supporting Iranian people, human rights.
As was the statement that we issued.
Exactly. And then there was another statement following your statement. Why there was a second statement? Why I think you felt that you have to do more explanation,
no.
And why was the second?
I think you're referring to all this was in about a half-hour period before I came to the podium, so it's not like there was a long lag in time here.
So how should we, as Iranian journalists, how can I report on your officials' condolences when you are all the time talking about supporting Iranian people? How can we tell Iranian people who exactly how Gita was talking about? They were very happy on social media. If you check it, how are we going to report on the official? You don't have any diplomatic tie with Iranian government.
So first of all, I would never presume to tell anyone how to report anything, but I would say that you can look at not just the statements I've made today, but the repeated statements over nearly 3.5 years by the President of the United States and by the Secretary of State and other members of the administration about our views of the Iranian regime, and more importantly, our actions to hold them accountable and our support for the Iranian people in their struggle against that brutal regime. Those have not changed, those will not change.
Does this have to do anything with the indirect talks you have in Oman?
So I'm not going to speak to any talks, real or imagined, but I will say that the actions, but I would not draw any such conclusion.
And Matt, about Ali Bagheri Kani, how do you feel about him?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Bagheri Kani, who is going to be the acting foreign minister, is going to be, he was deputy of Mr. Amir Abdullahian. How do you feel about him? Do you have any comments?
I just don't have any comment to offer today. Maybe in the coming days, but not today. Josh?